Hello, we are back with another episode of the Adventures in Adversity podcast. This is a podcast where we feature real people, true stories, and provide daily inspiration for everybody out there, for ourselves, for you, to get through life's toughest adversity, which we know comes in many, many different forms at different times. So I am so happy. I just got chills again because I am always so excited when someone wants to share their story with me. And that someone is Raheel. Raheel Siddiqui.
Yeah.
So nice to meet you and have you on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. And you got the name down perfectly on the first kill shot. So thank you so much. I'm honored. I usually get Rachel, but you finally got it. So thank you so much.
No, yeah. And we didn't even practice.
Yeah.
I didn't even practice either. I knew it. Well,
that was
my
perfect.
name, Brienne, nobody gets. I usually get like Brianna, or I'll be like, it's Brie. And they're like, Marie? I'm like, no, Brie.
Brie. Yep. Love it. Short and sweet. Right to it.
Yep. So Raheel, I'm so glad we were connected. Your publicity person reached out to me on behalf of you saying, you really need to hear Raheel's story. And I'm always so grateful when somebody finds the podcast and has a story like yours and is open and willing to share it so authentically. So I watched your TED Talk called The Wall Breaker.
The Wall Breaker. That's right, man. Woo! That's how we do it.
There was one image and one thing you described in your story, and I'm going to let you start it and I'm going to be quiet, which is hard for me. As my husband knows, it's hard for me to stop talking. There was an image where you talked about lowering your shoulder and just breaking through the wall. And I literally was like, oh my gosh, the audience is going to hear your story. The way you tell it too is so authentic. You've gone through a lot of different forms of adversity in your life. And I'm just going to let you tell your story, and I'm going to stop you and I'm going to ask questions. I know by the end of this, we're going to be jazzed for the weekend and inspired to break down some walls.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, thank you.
One of the biggest walls that you talked about in your story, and that you tell your story, you're a speaker, you've spoken at high schools, you speak at all kinds of events, podcasts, was battling obesity. So take me through your journey. And I know that was one wall you broke down, and then more walls came after that.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
So talk to me about your journey.
Yeah, for sure. No, thank you so much. And again, thank you for having me. Really excited, fired up to be here. So you get through it. I can't believe it. It's like, where did the time go? When you think about like your story and your history and your journey, and you're kind of like, man, like, is it real? Because sometimes you don't feel like it's real. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. So again, Raheel Siddiqui. So originally born and raised in New York, Long Island, go Knicks with the hat on. And now I moved I got the accent, got the swag, got the looks, got it all, So my wife would tell me, stop feeding your head a little too much, but she's not here, Bree, so we'll keep that between us like we were talking about.
Self-love, healthy self-love.
Exactly. Yeah, no, but then, but luckily I was able to move to the Baltimore area, and I'm here in the DMV space, we call it, in DC, Maryland, Virginia. That's how we like to call it in the tri-state area. So I've been here pretty much since 1994. But as you said, I guess from the start of the journey, from birth, I was born in 1982, 9/1/82, and nearly my entire life, from birth, adolescence, middle school, high school, college, post-college, I was battling obesity nearly my entire life. Was always overweight, had a huge weight problem, and could never really figure it out, and, my father was, the one guy that was always in my ear. And, of course, both my parents were, but my father in particularly, because he was a pharmacist, right? So he was in the healthcare industry. So he would have patients come. He was really well educated, really well versed on, health awareness, fitness, mental health, physical health in particular. So he was the one guy that was always in my ear. But, nonetheless, battled obesity nearly my entire life. And then up until January 2010, I, hit my peak weight of 405 pounds. And, I remember one day, my father came looking at me and he was like, whoa, it just hit him like a ton of bricks. Like, man, like, you're my youngest son. I got to go get you checked out, man. Like, this is getting out of hand. And sometimes that's what it takes, right? I mean, sometimes when or it's like, I should preference it. Like, sometimes you don't know what's in front of you until you can really just see it in a certain moment. I think with me, just seeing me in that moment and, how much heavier I got, I was breathing heavy. And I think it just hit him at that moment. Like, we got to take action like now. And I have two older siblings, and, luckily for them, they grew up pretty much healthy and,
Yeah.
pretty much normal, I guess I would say, if the safest
Yeah.
term, pretty much their whole life. It was just me. So either way, got my blood work done, went to go see the doctor a few days later. And, if anyone knows me, I'm notoriously known for this part of the story. So went to go see the doctor, and the doctor had a folder in his hand with my results. So all my results in there, looked up at my father and I, looked down at the folder, flipped the pages of the results of, in my folder, and closed the
Mm-hmm.
folder shut, threw the folder on the counter, and looked at my father and I and said, it doesn't matter what these results say. Your son's going to be dead by the time he's 40 anyways. We're just wasting our time now. And that was it. And if you heard my line,
Mm.
I really stick to it. I'm like, man, there goes your 5-star review, Doc. Where's Yelp at right now when you need it? Talk about bedside manner, man. Jesus, like, wow, and that was a real shock. And that was it. I never knew my scores, like not my hemoglobin, not my sugar, cholesterol, nothing. I didn't know
He's
anything.
like, it doesn't matter. This is
Doesn't
what.
matter, yeah, because he looked at me, he just saw like this guy hasn't taken it serious for 27 years. Why is he going to take it serious now? That was his mentality. Now I don't know if that was his at that time. I don't know if
Sure.
that was his mentality to try to get through to me or what he was trying to do, but that was it. Really cold. My dad and the doctor went off to the side for a minute or two tops, and they chatted, and then we left. And then
Yeah.
I think this is where it really hits. So like driving home, about halfway home, my father looked at me. He was like, "Hey, listen, I need you to pull the car over." I said, "Why? Is everything okay?" He said, "No, listen, I need you to pull the car over, pull it over now." I said, "Okay." So I pulled the car over, and I looked at him. I said, "What's going on?" He was like, "Listen, I need you to take this seriously." And, I tell people this all the time. I'm a dad now too. So I had the typical like father, son, parent, child, like roll your eyes when your parents are lecturing, kind of in
Yeah.
one ear and out the other. But then he was like, no, he like grabbed my hand and he was like, he had tears down his eyes. He was like, listen, I need you to take this seriously. Like, I'm running out of time. I'm not going to be there to see you get married. I'm not going to be there to see you have kids. Like, I'm not going to be here for any of this, but you still have time. You still have time to take control of your health, and you have to promise me. And we won't go home until you promise me. And that's when I saw like tears in his eyes. And for the first time in my life, like I really was like, wow, like I've never seen him in that state, like desperation, like one last grasp maybe at that time, in his mind.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, Dad, like stop crying. I don't want you to cry. So I was like, okay, I promise, I promise no matter what. So we drove home and he went upstairs. And at that time, he was battling a lot of health issues at that time. My dad's body was really breaking down. So at that moment, he was like, look, that's just how we felt in the moment. So I said, okay, sure. So then even still, I tried, man, I really did. We got home and I got to work. I went to the local, college track by my house. I went to the field by my school. I even joined a local gym. Tried and failed, tried and
Yeah.
failed, tried for a long time, even for months. And I kept trying, but then nothing seemed to work. And so, a really close friend of mine found a local gym, and he was like, hey, listen, man, like a few of us are joining this, state of the art gym. Why don't you come? It'll be fun. Maybe, it can,
Oh, cool.
yeah, it'll be fun to hang out. We can all be
Yeah.
together. So I was like, okay, cool. In my mind, I was like, okay, look, I tried everything else on my own. Let me see if I can make this work, join with my boys. Obviously that'd be a great opportunity. And
Yeah.
why not? It's like anything in life. When you try every other alternative and nothing is working out, what do you have to lose at this point? That was kind of like my
Exactly.
mindset, like nothing else has worked. I have nothing else to lose. Let's just go for it.
Yep.
So joined the gym, and in this part, I didn't talk about my TEDx, but would love to share here was,
Yeah.
I remember I went to the first day of the gym and I saw a sign on the wall and it said team weight loss class, and I was like, huh, and it literally was for people just like me, people who were very out of shape, overweight, who needed help, who needed like that pure jump start, right? Because everyone, let's
Yeah.
face it, I tell people the hardest step in life is the first step. In any journey in your entire life, the hardest step is the first step to really crossing that line, breaking that first wall down and taking the first step
Ooh.
to admitting you have a problem. Let's go find the solution, taking the first step towards that. So I said, okay, cool. So the class was 3 days a week, signed up. I was like, let's do it. And I remember the first day of class, I walked up the stairs like wheezing, huffing, and puffing. But I remember the trainer specifically that day. And I remember she was telling me, okay, guys, it's the first day of class. Everybody has to go up on the scale and you have to announce your weight to the entire class. Announce your name and announce your weight. And at that time, I'm like, oh my God, dude.
You're like,
Like,
great.
really? I was like, all
Yeah.
right, man. I was like, is it too late to get my deposit back?
You're like, there goes your 5-star review.
That's what I was gonna say, man. Can I get my deposit back for class? Because I didn't know this was part of the whole thing. And I went to her, and I remember specifically, I was like, listen, Mel, like, I was like, please don't make me do this, man. Like, dude, I'm just, I'm going through some hard times right now. I do not want to do this. And she like literally grabbed me. She was like, Raheel, look, I know you're gonna hate me for this, and I know how bad you feel, but I promise you one thing: as bad as you feel now, when you get to the other side of this journey, you're going to love telling this part of the story. I promise. And you know what? She was right. She was right, because I love telling this part of the story. She was so right. I can't even tell you, right? 15 years later, go figure. So I went up there and I told the class, my name is Raheel Siddiqui and I weigh 405 pounds. And I remember like everyone kind of looking like, wow, kind of feeling bad. They could tell I was sad. I was heartbroken, because nobody wants to announce that to the world, right?
Of course.
Like, to tell everybody, a room full of people that you don't know, strangers for the first time. So it was really, really defeating, right? So I did that.
I commend you. You did it.
You. I did it. It was tough, man. It was real tough. I mean, walls are nothing, but, they're meant to be broken. I tell everybody that all the time. You got to find a way to break it down. So that was one big wall I broke down. And then I think that was, just a really hard part. But going home, cried, got to the car, forget that, even before I got home, got to the car crying, driving home crying, got home crying. And I said to myself, okay, here comes the quitter again in me, because I've been a quitter nearly my whole life up until that point. And I was like, man, forget this. I don't want to do this. But, I made a promise to my dad, and I feel like that always stuck in the back of my mind. So whatever button was in my brain, in my heart at that time, that made me get up and go back and do it again. So I was like, okay, let's do it again. So I committed. I was like, I'm going to go for it. So I just did the team weight loss class 3 days a week, 1 hour a day. And then we had weekly weigh-ins. And I remember the first week, the trainer was like, man, you actually lost like 5 pounds this week. And I was like, oh, okay, wow. And that's pretty impressive. So then in my mind, I was like, okay, what if I just come to the gym every single day, just do a little extra on my own, on my off days, and then come to team weight loss class. Let's see what the results are. Let me just finally commit to something, So I did it. I committed 1 whole week. And I remember weekly weigh-in in week 2. And I remember the trainer looking at me, and him and I was a different trainer at that time. And then we looked at each other, and I was like, all right, man, like, is it good or bad? I was like, you're killing me here. Because I was like, I've been working my ass off all week, man. Like, don't tell me it's broken. And he was like, no, man, you lost like 17 pounds this week. And at that time, I was like, oh, my God. So you know what, Bree? That was the first time in my life where I was like, you know what? I actually didn't quit. For the first time in my life, I was like, I actually did something. I actually was able to take that wall of obesity and break it down. Not for the sense of breaking it down, like I'm not where I want to be in that moment, but I took the first step, And I think that's when I knew, okay, man, I can do this, right? I don't have to be a quitter. Quitting is never going to get you anywhere in your life. And, and the rest was history. Then I became a machine. I was on a rampage, and then the first 1 year from May 2010 to May 2011, I lost my first 150 pounds. And I was on fire, man. I was rolling. Clothes were fitting. My swag was all over the place. The music was getting louder in my car. My voice was getting deeper. Just the overall sheer confidence, man. Like everything changed in me. My health, my mood, my mental health. I was rolling, So that was awesome. My dad was happy. He got to see me. He was like, man, his little boy.
He must have been so
over the moon, man. Very over the moon. Yeah, so that was amazing. So that was the best part. But, like they say in life, you 1 step forward, 2 steps backward, So, later on that July, even though my health was rolling right now, July. And it's funny how we're doing this podcast today because, in July, we were in my cousin's wedding, and the night of the reception in Connecticut, my father was battling a lot of liver issues, and his liver ended up blowing out, and he ended up dying like right in my hands the night of the reception. And it was actually July 2018, exactly 14 years ago, that I am sharing this story with you, that I lost him in my hands. So just a very traumatic experience. My mom was there, and and it was his side of the family too. I think was also really hurt. It was like his nephew, my cousin, so like his siblings were there. Everybody was in the room, like, what's going on? Took him to the hospital in Connecticut just to, confirm like his death. And it was just a really traumatic experience. And then that happened. And then to add salt on even a bigger wound, then we have to take the body back to Baltimore where we live to do the funeral services. So we do that. And I remember bending over to pick up his casket. I remember standing up, and all of a sudden I feel a pop in my back. And what happens? I blow out my L3, L4 a herniated disc the day of my dad's funeral. I'm in excruciating pain, and I can't tell a word to a single person because it's my father's funeral exactly 14 years ago, right at this time. So I'm like, man, like life really isn't fair, dude. It
It
isn't.
just
It sucks. It really sucks. So I
it
had to say goodbye to my dad, and I'm injured now. He's gone, and here we go. Just more walls coming up. The second you feel like you break a wall down, you have another one coming right back up, and in that moment, the fire just wasn't there. So
yeah,
I still went forward in terms of I would still work out, I would still go, every few days, but the pain
sure.
wasn't going away. I never really got it fixed. So I tried like these little band-aids, as you call it, like, taking, Meteorol dose packs, like steroid medications or physical therapy or rehab, but none of it
Yeah,
was ever working. And then eventually the weight was coming back, man. And then fast forward to 2016, my wife and I ended up getting married. I
yeah,
met her in 2015. So we got married in 2016. And then 2019, my son was born, and that was another huge wall. And I'm sure we're going to get into that here,
yeah,
as
yeah,
we go on. And then 2019, he was born. And then 2020 in January, in the work garage, I bend over to tie my shoe. I stand up, and then what do I hear? Another pop, and I blow out my second herniated disc in my back. So now 9 years of pain
painful.
and just overall just taking a beating. I gained half the weight back. Now I blow up my second herniated disc. My wife and I already went through so much to have our son. So I'm like, man, like, dude, how much more? It's kind of like, man, like you're like that fighter in the ring. Like, man, can somebody just throw in the towel because you're just taking the beating of your freaking life, man. Like, when is it going to stop? So I remember going home to my wife crying, like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm in excruciating pain. She's like, look, man, like, we got to get it fixed. Like, I was on your ear, a lot when we first got married. You didn't listen, but now you're a dad now. She was like, our baby is only 2 months old. Look at what we went through to have him. And I know you so well. Like, you were never going to be happy. She said it. She's like, you weren't even happy when I met you, because you never were the guy that I knew you were born to be. You never were like that dog, like that animal, like the fire that I had with my training. I know how bad you want it, right? Like, she knows how much my training means to me, my discipline, my drive, my fire. She was like, the athlete that you want to be, you don't have that in you.
Yeah,
And I know it's eating you up. And she was like, we're not going to make it. Like, we're not going to survive. Like, we have to get this fixed. Like, you have to go break this wall down. Like, let's go do some research. Let's go look into some surgery options. Let's go get it done.
yeah,
So, knock on wood, my wife's best friend, who's a physician, she referred us to a great surgeon. And, God bless him, Dog Z. I remember seeing him the following week in his office, that Monday. And I remember him looking at the pain chart behind him, sorry. And,
yeah.
he was like, usually I would ask between 1 to 10 what your pain level is, but I literally was like bent over like this. That's how much pain I was in. He was like, but I'm not going to ask that today. I think you're exceeding 10 right now. I was like, Doc, I was like, I love you, man. But yeah, definitely not the time to ask me, bro. Like,
Yeah,
literally.
yeah,
And then,
yeah.
yeah, and then like he was amazing. That was that Monday. That following Friday, we went in for surgery. Got up and yeah, and it was kind of crazy. I remember like that day, and like the doctor left, home, and then I'm like yelling at the nurse because I'm so hopped up on like medication. I'm like, what happened? What happened? Did I even go into surgery? And the nurse was like, you're in OR, man. Your surgery was like hours ago. You've been sleeping, snoring away. You're doing good. But he was like, yeah, but the doctor gave me some instructions, like what to do. So, off to rehab. And I remember my wife, I mean, like even the first day from the hospital, like putting my arm around her shoulder, walking. And the doctor was like, yo, you have to make sure he walks a lot because when it comes to back injuries, you don't want any blood clots. So, like, sitting is the worst thing you could do. You got to walk as much as you can. So, my wife, I mean, shout out to her. I mean, she was like literally walking me up the stairs, down the stairs to the bathroom, changing my bandage dressers. I would have trash bags of just bloody bandages because I have 2 holes in my back that got punched in. And, the blood, obviously the blood flow is coming. You got to change those bandages every day. She was doing that, walking me around the neighborhood, physical therapy. But then finally 6 weeks was up, went for my checkup. Doctor looked at me and he was like, dude, respectfully, like, don't go like, like Tarzan, but, your full systems go, just let it out, And I think that's when the first time, man, I was like, right when he said that, I was like, wow. And then, from that moment in 2020, I was able to rip off all the weight that I gained and then some. And now currently, as I'm talking to you,
Amazing.
I'm down a total of 200 pounds. And, I was able to come back from the fall, man. And I couldn't be more happier. I'm in the best shape of my life. My son is almost 6. I just got my blood work done from my doctor. Knock on wood. My doctor was like, "Man, I'm so proud of you, man. You crushed your blood work. I couldn't be more proud." It was nice. It's a nice feeling. And she said your dad would be proud, and hope he is.
So that a lot of adversity.
Yeah.
In all of those, like what you talk about, the wall of your weight, then the wall of, losing your father, which is losing a parent, losing a family member is tough, but also just the way that happened is very traumatic, difficult to get through.
Right.
And you talked about, and we'll get into this as well, having your son. He's now 6.
Almost.
Amazing.
Yep,
the gift of being a father, like, the gift of fatherhood, because you've been a recipient of, obviously, it sounds like an amazing father. And so now you get to give that gift back.
Yeah.
So it seems like,
thank you,
these walls and the back surgery as well, on the other side of each of them in your journey, you talk about you're breaking through and like lowering your shoulder.
Yep.
And you mentioned that in your TED talk, that image of like, sometimes you got to lower your shoulder. And I'm like, that really struck me, because the walls don't stop.
No.
Like, you think, okay, this is definitely the last wall for sure.
Yep. It's not.
Life is hard.
Extremely.
So tell me about, and I'm gonna jump all over.
No,
but
good.
It sounds like your wife is an amazing woman. And it sounds like she tells you what you need to hear when you need to hear it.
Oh yeah. She's not short of that. She definitely, no doubt, will check me hands down right now. She'll walk into this podcast and check me if she has to. No doubt about it. Yeah. But she's a beast, no doubt.
Well, and I think what helps you break down those walls is the people in your life, and them being authentic with you and real with you, having those hard conversations.
Yep.
So it started with that doctor.
Yep.
And I'm all about too, like, bedside manner. You got to be, but in life, you have those people that come in and you're kind of like, wait, what did you just say to me?
Right.
And you talked about earlier, sometimes those things that people say to you, whether it was that doctor, the trainer, your dad, your wife, your friends, whatever it might be, that authenticity kind of forces you to take a look in the mirror. When you were going through the weight loss, because that's a huge accomplishment to lose 200 pounds. And I know that there's people out there listening that have struggles with weight. It's a tough thing.
Yep.
Do you remember when you feel that fire, and now you have that fire in you, when you were really struggling, what things would you say to yourself to help break through that wall, that first wall?
Yeah, sure. You mean like during the times when I was obese, or during the times when I was training to kind of get over that, to kind of.
We were training.
Yep.
When you decided, okay, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For
Take me through your mindset.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think honestly, it just comes down to, I think the first thing that came to me was I was also very bullied a lot. And I was always the guy that, anybody that knows me, whether they listen to me now or when they listen to this podcast or if they see me now, I was told, I'll tell you this, Bree, 95%, if not more people, they never thought I could even lose 1 pound, okay? Let's just forget 200. I mean, I was bullied so bad that I would have people literally tell me to my face, like, dude, the guy's never going to lose the weight. And they would always make fun of me about, hey, man, take your shirt off, because they can make fun of me. And, like, I was sitting at a Pizza Hut one time. I'm notoriously known for this. 3 pizzas come out. And, some friend of ours was like, hey, man, told the waitress, hey, man, that's great. That's for him. But what about the rest of us? And everyone's laughing at me. And I feel like the mindset of, you know what, dude, like, I just don't want to be bullied anymore. I don't want to be picked on anymore. But more than anything, I'm here to prove all of you wrong. That I'm not just a quitter. I'm not just a guy that's going to sit here and be disrespected. Because the one thing that I talk about a lot to everybody now, it's, one thing I learned a lot in this journey, it's you will never be respected by anyone in your entire life if you don't respect yourself. You have to have a moxie and a character and a grit and a toughness inside of you. I don't care who you are. Man, woman, husband, wife, boy, girl, teammate, student, it doesn't matter, man. But if you walk in with a sense of weakness and you show the world that, man, you know what, I'm a punching bag or a piñata, it's like a shark in the what? They smell blood, right? But if you walk in and you show who you are and you have that moxie and you carry yourself like, dude, I'm a tough SOB and I'm going to hold my own. And, I got nothing but love and respect and well wishes. But, just don't mess with me. Right. And I always teach my son this too. Like, because we'll talk about bullying and how school systems, and I have nephews who are older too.
Yeah.
So, they have classes about like, bullying, not bullying. I've been bullied a lot. So I always teach my son, always be kind, be humble, be great, but never, never start a fight, never ever start a fight, but finish a fight, right? And finish a fight, not in any physical means, but just like, like show them that, you're not going to be punked around or bullied. But going back to the mindset question, it's a matter of, I think every day I had that drive and that fire, even still, it's the fact of, you know what, all y'all thought I couldn't do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that was like the dog mentality that I had. I'm going to show all of you wrong. But then as time has gone on now, I've progressed, in my journey, because I still train just as hard, if not harder, as I did before. Right. And I think it comes down to the mindset of making a promise to my dad. I'm a father now, so I want my son to see the best version of me too. And then also 3, it goes from a mindset of, instead of proving all of those guys wrong or girls wrong or whoever wrong, I want to prove myself right. I know my self-worth. I know what I'm capable of, and I know that, I have no limits. The only limits I'm setting is to myself. So to anybody out there who's listening and you're dealing with those type of struggles or those type of issues, the best advice I can give anybody in a weight loss journey or in a fitness or health journey, it's, just don't worry about anybody else's opinions. And, anything else negative that's happened in your life, even if people have told you that you can't do it, use it. Like, use it as fuel to the fire. Like, don't run from it, right? So I would use that as fuel. I would find different ways every single day to motivate myself. Like, I would just go in my brain and be like, hey, I remember that guy making fun of me, or I remember this kid making fun of me, or I remember that guy saying this, or I remember this girl saying this, or XYZ. You have to find ways to always motivate yourself, because even though discipline does outweigh motivation to some degree, but I hear people saying all the time like motivation fades. I kind of disagree to some extent. I do believe motivation can go on forever. I think you just have to be creative and find different ways to keep motivating yourself, because the fact of getting up at 5:30 in the morning and going out in the cold, in the snow, in the wind, and whether you're going to a gym or you're running outside and training 2 hours a day every single day, such as I do, you have to be motivated to some degree too. And I'm not saying I'm not disciplined. I like to think that I am, but I just have a fire inside of me, man, that I'm so motivated. I'm sure you hear it in my voice right now, because I get goosebumps talking about it, man. Like I am never going to be denied. I'm never going to be doubted, and you're never going to tell me that I can't do it, because I'm going to do it anyway. And I think nobody has the right to tell you that you can't do it, man. Yes, you can. I don't care what excuse you have. I don't care what walls you have. You can do it, man. Only you are stopping yourself. Take that shoulder and ram against that wall, and ram against that wall, and ram against that wall. I don't care how big it is. It could be as big as the Great Wall of China, but that's the beauty of it, man. I always tell people, what's more beautiful than the fall? It's the comeback. There's nothing more beautiful. There's nothing more beautiful than the fall, than the comeback, man. So if you're somebody who's a postpartum mom, or you're a dad bod, or you're a person in college and you got the freshman 15 and everyone's doubting you and everyone's saying you can't, go prove them wrong. Show them, man. Show them, right? Actions speak louder than words. Like, yes, you can. You got breath in your lungs. You always got a chance. You always have a chance, man. If you're listening to this right now, man, you have a chance, man. Get up and go right through that wall. You're talking to a guy who lost 150. I gained it all, half of it, more than half of it right back. And I was able to rip right over that, that wall, and then some. And now I'm still rolling. And guess what? God forbid, I don't know the future, but God forbid, like my intent is to always be this way. But, I didn't plan to get injured either, right? Like, you can't, like, the life is not fair, man. Like, it's just not. So you have to have the mindset of whatever wall is in your way. That's the number one lesson I want to tell everyone out there. Have that mindset of training, preparation for your mind, right? That you're ready. Any wall that's in my way, I know I'm ready. I tell people all the time, I don't care what wall comes my way. I'm going to break it down, I've been through hell in my life. I tell people I'm not somebody that's been through hell. I've burned in it, I've burned in it. But those are the lessons that I learned over life that have prepared me for now. I'm ready for the battle now, if that makes sense.
I I can feel it. It's a rad image to be able to cling to, and talking to anyone out there, and even myself, like after this podcast, when a wall
Yep.
comes, this is gonna be the first I'm going to literally think of you.
Thank you.
So when I'm like out after, I'm gonna be like, and then something, whatever,
Yeah.
kids, work,
Whatever.
life,
Yep.
friend, because you can't predict it.
Yep.
I'm literally, and I'm getting chills right now. I'm literally gonna be like, oh, Raheel said, it's the wall.
Thank you.
And so
Yeah.
I mean, I've never, it's almost like too, every time you lower your shoulder, maybe it's a huge brick wall, like
Yep.
maybe just one brick or one brick moves a little bit.
Yep.
I want to say thank you for sharing that experience, and I'm really sorry that that happened to you.
Thank you. I appreciate
I
it.
know that like it's common, but it's not okay that people did that, and that's really messed up. And if any of those people hear this or see this, like shame on them. That is not okay.
Not
And
okay.
it gets, I have kids, and I have friends who have struggled with weight. It's just, we need to do better
100%.
with our kids.
Agree.
And like, if your kid comes home and they're in trouble for that, they need to be educated about empathy and
being kind.
Now, as you get older, you realize, oh, okay, they must have been unhappy inside, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's still scars that you have,
Sure.
but with the forever, you know,
They don't go away.
The good side of it that you can, my friend had talked about in another episode, like alchemizing it into something else. You take that shit experience and you put it into the fire, and it comes out. And you know, it's anyone listening, I feel like listening to your story, anyone in your life that is a source of negativity or doubt, whether it's in your family, a friend, a stranger, someone at school, it's hearing stories like this, that the people who care about people are going to win in the end. Those people that are bullying and doing all of that.
Quality over quantity, man. Quality over quantity. I'd rather hang out with 3 of the realest friends of my entire life versus 30 people that I just kind of know, or I'm kind of cool with, but I don't really know them, or they might judge me, or they might look at me differently. And you know, it's funny too, Bree, about this too. I always tell people this, man, like, don't worry about anyone else's opinions. I'm the biggest believer of that too, because it's funny. And I'll tell people this all the time. I was 405 pounds. People picked on me. They bullied me. They laughed at me. They shamed me. They had an opinion about me. I lose 200 pounds. Now I'm on Instagram. I could do something very simple, like take my shirt off at the pool, right? And then I'll have people being like, well, why is he taking his shirt off at the pool? Why is he showing off? Okay, great. You lost weight. So what? So what? So what? I'm like, man, which one is it, guys? You got to pick one. You can't have it both ways. I mean, like, Jesus. Like, what do you guys want from me, man? So I tell people, we live in a world of comparisons, and like, oh, look at how him and, or, you know, he is. Look at how she is. Look at what they're doing. And this is where social media can get a little dicey sometimes. So the best advice I tell people, just stay in your own lane. Like, rest in peace, Nipsey Hussle, famous rapper, said this line. He said, stay in your own lane because there's too much traffic in everyone else's lanes and then in all the other lanes. Sorry, Nipsey, not to butcher the line, but too much traffic in the other lanes, right? And he's right. Just stay in your lane. It's you versus you. I don't care if somebody else is, I'm saying this in a nice way. Like, I don't care if somebody else is like super jacked or super sexy in a bikini. That is great for them. I am happy for them. I'm so glad that they're great for them. But I don't care in the sense of like, I'm not comparing myself to them. That's great for them. I got nothing but happiness. But I don't want to look at them and be like, oh my God, like I want to be like that. Because the second you start doing that, that's where you're going to go away from those walls that you're trying to break down and not go through them, you know? Stop comparing yourself to everybody else. Somebody in life is always going to be better than you at something. Somebody's always going to have more money in their bank than you. Somebody's going to be stronger than you, faster than you, more popular than you. It doesn't, they could do more reps on the bench than you. It does. They might drive a nicer car than you. They might wear Louis and Gucci's more than you. It doesn't matter. I mean, you know, what makes a person rich in the end is their heart. Okay. That's what makes a person rich. Okay. Is their heart, not their popularity, not their bank account, not their cars, not who they know, which power players do I know, which social club do I hang out with. So when I say rich, I don't mean money. I'm talking about rich in terms of like the grand scheme of life, like, you know, like that, like the totality of it all, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're a great person on the inside and you have the biggest heart ever, you will reap the rewards of that, man. And just stay in your lane. Stop comparing yourself to everybody else. I tell people, stop comparing yourself to me. Like, my journey is my journey. My story is my story. Because people will tell me all the time, like, oh man, like, I want to look like this now. How do you do it now? And I'm like, yeah, I would love to do it now too, guys. But it took me 15 years to get to this point. 15 years of work, like, of blood, of sweat, of tears, of everything that you and I just talked about right now. Like, my TEDx talk, just go check it out. Raheel Siddiqui, TEDx,
Yeah.
DSHS. You'll see how long and what I've been through to get to this point. So yeah, I would love to look like me if I could do it like this too. If I could just snap my fingers like a multiverse, or my man Doc Brown and Marty McFly, get the time machine, But life is not that
Yes.
way, unfortunately, man. It's not. You gotta
No.
break the wall down, break as many walls down, and you gotta go through it. And like I said in my TEDx talk, like, it's hard, right? But you're never gonna know what is waiting for you on the other side of that wall if you quit, right? It doesn't matter how hard it is, but just get up and attack it every single day. But if you quit, you're never going to know. Like, had I quit, I never would have known, right, what my capabilities were,
Yeah.
how my mindset would have
Yeah.
changed, how much stronger I would have been. If I quit, if my wife quit, we would have never had our son, right? Never. So it's like, these are the moments I tell people and teach people, yeah, quitting is easy. I know, I've done it my whole life. But if you quit, you're never going to know what dream, what greatness, what magic is waiting for you on the other side. And that's what makes it so
Yeah.
special. It's like, the one quick example I give: when Michael Jordan won his first championship, he won 6. But the first championship, there's an image of him when he's grabbing the trophy and he's holding it and he's crying against it, just letting it
On the
all out,
floor.
holding it tight,
Ah.
like crying like a baby, right? And and he talked about that. He's like, man, everything that I've been through, like, I was compared to Magic and Bird. They were the big dogs. I wasn't. I was just known as a scorer. Can Michael Jordan lead the Bulls to a championship? He's too flashy. He's this, he's that. Finally, and he went through Magic Johnson to go win his first championship, and he's crying. And who's he standing? He's sitting next to his father, right? Because that was his best friend. So it's like, and it's those moments as I got older in life, that's when I realized, like, wow, I never understood the significance of that picture until now. Now I know why he was holding that trophy, and all the years and all the work and all the preparation, the hours in the weight room and practice and training and everything, putting your body on the line. That's why you did it. And that's why I do what I do now. Everything that I've been through. And I love you so much for being so nice about talking about what I've been through. I really appreciate it. Thank you. That means a lot to me. And then also, I think the two-piece fold of it is like what we talked about. I think also I am grateful in the sense of, all of everything that happened to me, it made me who I am. It was unfortunate and I wish it didn't, but I will say it
Sure.
made me who I am. And that's why I try to spread awareness. Like, hey, I also don't want anybody else to feel like that, what I went through too. Like, there is other ways. Like, my way was my way because that was the way it had to be done. That's why I tell people, don't compare yourself to anybody else, because you don't know what somebody else has been through, right? Like, if I had a choice, would I change a lot of things? Of course. I nobody wants to get bullied and tortured and humiliated and been through what I've been through, but at the end of the day, the reality is we live in a reality world, right? We can't go back in time. I wouldn't change it for the world, because number one, I can't. But number two, everything I've been through, it made me who I am, and it made me who I am, and who I am now is the wall breaker,
Love
Yeah, I
it.
appreciate it.
The wall breaker.
That's
No,
it.
it's literally, it's a really great way to reframe your problems,
Mhm.
right? Because when you talk about, like, when you start going down the comparison route or the negative thoughts, you move away from the
Yep.
wall. So you have to face it to break
Right.
it, right? You face it and
Yep.
start. And one thing you talked about, you have a 6-year-old boy. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah,
Congratulations.
almost 6.
That
Yep.
you watched your wife break through that
Oh
wall.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And I loved the image of, you're like almost like a baby literally waiting on the other
Yep.
side, being like, I'm here when you're like, just keep going. I'm just ready when you're right. Tell me about that journey and how that was,
Yeah.
you had lost the weight, you met the love of your life.
Yep.
You obviously were grieving, you had lost your father, and the journey of getting pregnant
Yeah.
was not easy.
No, it was not easy.
I
Yeah.
know people listening can relate to
No, for
that.
sure. And this is a really great topic, and I'm glad. And I feel like I need to
Yeah.
talk about it more because I feel like it's a really serious issue. And I think also over
Yeah.
the last few years, I've seen that a lot of men as well, especially, need to come out and talk about it more because I feel like a lot of women who are so courageous talk about,
Yes.
infertility and in vitro and like
Yeah.
the, what they've been through. But in terms of like, just getting pregnant, I think men should also. So if you're a man out there and you're listening to this, please listen to this too because I hope it helps you too. But going back to your question,
Yeah.
so 2016 we got married, and then we tried to have kids for a few years. And I remember going to the doctor's office, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. We ran a multitude of tests, and the doctor, I remember looking right at me when she tilted her chair right at me. She said, "Look, Raheel, like, honestly, I can't 100% confirm it because, all they can do, doctors, I think one of the, stigma is doctors aren't like, I'm saying this respectfully, they're not like gods. Like, they're not like from a multiverse, right? All they can do is do the best that they can do with the most scientific, education that
Yes.
they've learned and trained on. So she couldn't confirm it,
Right.
but she looked at me and said, "Hey, listen, your sperm motility count is, abnormal, and this could be a big reason why you guys are not having children. So the only route you guys can go is through in vitro fertilization." So I remember at that
Yeah.
time, like, man, you talked about it, right? Lost my dad, gaining weight, my back injury, was feeling like hell at that time because I was in the peak of my injury. So I'm like, man, now
Uh,
another wall to break. And I looked at my wife, and I think I learned this a lot from her too, whether I've told her or not, but hopefully she hears it now. It's, my wife was
yeah.
like, okay, like this this is the answer, then this is what it's got to be, right? Like she didn't even
Let's
think twice
go.
about it, right? Exactly. It wasn't like, oh, but can we do this or but there was no buts. It was like, okay, if this is our only option, then so be it. So let's get to it. So, man, and if people who don't know about in vitro fertilization, it's a beast. Like I said in my TEDx talk, I mean, it is really emotionally draining, financially is draining. A lot of insurance
Yeah.
companies don't cover it. This might be a debate for others out there who listen to this, but it's just very exhausting. So my wife every day was taking shots, taking medications, throwing up in the bathroom. Like months go by, and I remember her in the bed, and I'm like, hey, listen, like, I'm not suggesting to quit, but I'm not the one going through this, man. Like you are, my weight loss was
Yeah.
me going through it, but this is like a whole nother level than weight loss, man. This is like you're literally just putting crap into your body every single day, But, she looked
Yeah.
right at me and she put her two fingers right at her stomach. She's like, I'm having this baby. I'm having it no matter what. Nothing's going to stop me. Like quitting is not an option. I don't care. And she was beat up. I mean, she had bruises all over her stomach, like just exhausted. So then I was like, okay, I support you 100%. Quitting is not an option. And if you guys hear this one more time, quitting is not an option. So I said, okay, fine. So we did it a few more months. And then finally the doctor gave us a call, said, hey, man, you know what? Congratulations, you guys are pregnant. And I was like, oh my God. And then here we go, November 2011. My little guy comes out. Raheel Siddiqui, Rayn is his name. So yeah. And
Love
then I
it.
remember my wife holding him for the very first time, and I was like, man, like,
Mm.
and then she was like, we did it, and I was like, we didn't do it, you did it.
It's like holding the trophy.
Yeah,
It's like Michael
it was.
Jordan.
It
It's like
was.
it's literally have chills
It
everywhere
was.
now.
I appreciate it.
For you guys, you did it together. When you have a
Yeah.
partner like that is willing to tell you those truths and then be with you when you're going through your
Yeah.
walls, but then break through her
Yep.
walls. And then maybe some walls you're both punching
Yep.
through, some walls like she's doing
Yep.
more. That's like parenting.
No, yeah, and the thing is,
It's
and I also know that the lesson is too on the health side, and now specifically, it's for
true.
like even if for the men's side, if I may say this, like this is why
Yes,
I tell people,
please.
man, like even for a male. So even like when I mentioned this too, it's like, man, okay, my dad literally saved my life to help save my life, and I had to lose weight. So I'm like, okay, so basically in my mind, I'm thinking I got to lose weight or not have the potential of having kids. It's like like how fair is like life, So this is my message to you men out there, especially if you're in your prime years, 18 and 20s specifically, man. Like this could also be a side effect of, down the line, if you plan on having children and you have fertility issues that come up now, this could be a cause of a reason as to why not. So if you're young enough or you're
Mm,
in your prime years and, please take care of your health, man, because my extreme weight loss cost me that ability. We couldn't have kids naturally,
mm,
and again, it wasn't 100%, but again, the doctor did say that
sure.
was probably the biggest reason why, if she were to put her,
Mm,
her nail on it. So that's why I tell people, like, take care of your health, man. Like, take care of you first. I think that's the best lesson, first and foremost, I'd like to give to all the men, if that's okay, who are listening here. And then the second
Yeah.
lesson is like, yes, I mean, without a doubt, I mean, I learned from my wife at that point, like, man, like, if she had quit, we would never have our son. Our family would not be here. So, you just can't let your mind sink in and tell yourself to quit, because quitting is never ever going to get you to the other side of that wall. You have to get up and you got to keep ramming at that wall. You got to keep trying to
Mm.
break it down, because I promise you, no matter how long it seems or no matter how hard it takes, it is going to break down. And I promise you, forget even looking at a guy like me, man. If you look at what my wife went through, like I just told you, I mean, you think I'm the wall breaker. She's the ultimate wall breaker, you know?
Mm. It's a great way to go into the weekend thinking about the walls that we're all
No.
facing and how we can be inspired by what you went through. But like you said, we all have our own
Yep.
story and we all have different sets of walls. And I want to thank you. I know we could keep
For
talking
sure.
for,
No, thank you. Yeah. This is awesome.
and hey, maybe we can have you and your wife
Mhm.
back talk about your
Yeah,
journey
for
sometime.
sure. I would love it. I would love
Because
it.
I know we've got a lot of women listening to this
Okay.
podcast in a lot of different countries just talking about the
Yeah.
journey, and I'm sure that in itself is it's a lot of
No, it
adversity.
is.
So,
It is.
Raheel, I really want to thank you for so openly talking about your life and love and loss and hardship. And I just want to commend you for your energy and your spirit. And I really feel it. And if I may say, I know that your dad is super stoked for what you're
No,
doing,
thank you so
who you're
much. I
becoming. And
appreciate it. And on his anniversary too. So thank you for having me. He passed away on July 18th, 14 years ago.
oh, it's the anniversary
Yeah, today
today.
was his death anniversary today, 14 years ago. So thank you for having me. That's why it's really nice. That's why I'm a little more emotional probably than I am,
Yeah,
because 14 years ago was the day that I lost him, on July 18th today. So thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me
of
share this
course.
story. I mean, without him, I wouldn't be here today. I always tell people, man, like, he literally saved my life. In some ways, I feel like he sacrificed his life to save mine. So thank you for letting me have the opportunity to be here. I would love to always stay connected with you. I hope the audience got good content. Hopefully, you got a great episode for your show, and definitely would love to even have
Yeah.
you on my show if you're open for it on Wallbreaker
Oh, I
200.
would love
I'm sure
to.
you have. I'm sure everybody has walls they've broken down, Brie, at some point in their life, right? Everybody has, and I know
Oh
you have too,
yeah.
right? So for sure, I'd love to have you on
Yeah,
there as well.
everybody
For
does.
sure,
Well, Raheel, I'm gonna put a link to your
please.
podcast, a link to yes, to your TED
Yeah.
Talk, all the things, Instagram in the show
Okay.
notes. And again, the wall breaker, Raheel, it was a pleasure, and I can't wait for this to come out to help
Thanks,
people.
Bree. Thank you for your time. Appreciate you. Have a great weekend. You're the best. See you soon. And yeah, everybody, hopefully have a great, safe weekend. Let's go.
Yeah,
Break those walls down. Let's do it
let's
together.
go break some
Let's do
walls.
it.
Let's
Let's
do
do it.
it. All
Appreciate it.
right,
Thanks, guys.
take
Thank you.
care.
Bye.
Bye.